Okay, so there's some huge news in the AI world. The next generation, ChatGPT 5, has officially arrived. And as of today, it's actually the default model for everyone. So the big question on my mind is, what can this thing really do?
So that leads us to the billion-dollar question, right? Is this actually a big deal, or is it just a fresh coat of paint and a lot of hype? Well, to figure that out, we're going to put it to the test, really put it through its paces, and see what's what.
Okay, so the first thing you're probably going to notice is speed. It's fast. For a simple question, as you can see, GPT-5 is nearly twice as fast. And that's great. But let's be real, a few seconds of waiting wasn't really the biggest problem with the old models, was it? The real upgrade, the one that actually matters, is something much more interesting.
And that brings us to the first major change. OpenAI has completely simplified the whole experience. Now there's just one single model that does everything. If you've used ChatGPT a lot, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The old way was, well, it was kind of a mess. You had this confusing drop-down menu with all these different models, and you basically had to guess which one was the right one for coding or for writing or for a simple question. It was a total shot in the dark.
Well, all of that is gone now. GPT-5 works as a single, unified model. It's now smart enough to figure out on its own if your question is simple and just needs a quick answer, or if it's really complex and needs to use more of its thinking power to give you a great response. So let's see how that actually plays out. So how do you even test something like AI intuition? Well, we're going to throw a pretty complex coding problem at it and see if it can figure out what a better result looks like without us having to spell it out. We're keeping the prompt super simple and direct, just make a playable game of Tetris. Now, this is a classic challenge. It needs some real coding know-how. We're going to run it on the old models first and then on the new GPT-5. And wow, the results are pretty telling. The old top-of-the-line model took almost a full minute to make a really bare-bones game. The specialized coding model was faster, yeah, but it gave us the exact same basic version. And then there's GPT-5. In just 19 seconds, it produced something that was just worlds apart. We're talking score, levels, a next piece preview. It even added on-screen controls. And this is the key. It's not just that it could add those features. It's that it knew it should. It had the intuition to understand what makes a game of Tetris actually fun, and it baked all of that in without us asking for it. That's not just a small step up, that's a massive leap. Okay, so we figured, let's push it. Let's get even crazier. We gave it this prompt, make a playable premium-looking chess game or all the pieces are Pokémon. I mean, it's a ridiculous ask. The previous best model completely failed this test. It just spit out a bunch of errors and a game that was totally broken. And then, as it was working, something happened that I have never seen before. This little message popped up. The AI itself told me it needed to think longer to get a better answer. I mean, it's communicating its process. That is a whole new level of awareness. And the final result? It was night and day. The old model gave us this buggy mess with like 90s era pixel art that just didn't work. GPT-5 built a beautiful, fully functional game that actually looks premium and even highlights your legal moves for you. This was the moment it stopped feeling like a simple tool and started feeling like a real collaborator. But look, coding is a pretty specific thing. For most people, the most important question is really about accuracy. Has it finally solved that big problem of AI hallucination? In other words, has it stopped confidently telling you things that are just completely wrong? You know, this has been the Achilles heel for AI since the beginning, so let's see if there's been any real improvement here. So we designed a little trap for it, asking for tech products made by food brands that you can actually go out and buy. And the results? Well, it's still telling tall tales. Just like its predecessor, it confidently told us all about these totally made-up Oreo smart speakers and a McDonald's mobile phone. So yeah, that whole hallucination problem, it is definitely not fixed. But here's an interesting twist. When we asked it a tricky question like, what AI are you? The old model just gave us total nonsense. GPT-5, however, seemed to understand the intent of the question and gave a clear, direct answer. So even though it still makes up facts, it seems to have a much better handle on context. Okay, let's move on to something a little more subjective, creativity.
we tested its ability to generate images and to write with a bit more, well, flair. And the results here were kind of a mixed bag.
We asked it to make a YouTube thumbnail, and honestly, I was surprised. GPT-5 was actually worse. GPT-4o came up with a pretty good concept, even if the face it generated was a little cursed. But GPT-5's attempt was just bland, the composition was worse, and it didn't even get the format right. It gave us a square image. It was a clear step back for image generation. But what about writing? We gave both models a challenge. Write a script about the spectacular failure of the Windows Phone. GPT-4o's version, well, it reads like a Wikipedia entry. It's factual, sure, but it's just a dry list of events. There's no soul. Now, just listen to GPT-5's take. It uses this killer analogy, like opening a restaurant without food, and then closes with this incredible line, "Rest in peace, Windows Phone, you tiled too close to the sun." Come on. The difference isn't just that it's better, it has actual style. So, after all these tests, after putting it through the ringer, what's the final verdict on ChatGPT-5? Let's bring it all together. All right, let's break it down real quick. The unified model is a massive win. It's just so much simpler. We saw a huge leap in its problem-solving intuition, especially with that Tetris game. And its writing, as we just saw, has way more creative flair, but it's not perfect. It still confidently makes things up. And surprisingly, its image generation actually took a step backward. So here it is, the big takeaway. GPT-5 is not the perfect, all-knowing oracle we were maybe hoping for. You still can't trust it for every single fact. But what it has become is a far more powerful and intuitive collaborator for those complex, creative, and logical tasks. And that shift from just a tool to a true partner, it fundamentally changes the whole game, which leaves us with one really fascinating question. With a collaborator this powerful at our fingertips, what are we all going to build with it next?